Hello everyone and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and after 40 years in business, I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR, we created a format where we really invite people, it's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics, and the range is going from AI, of course, to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Yeah, hello and welcome to another episode of Cappuccino with HR. Today I'm really happy and I'm really delighted to have Christian with us, Christian Wastlhuber. He's Fractional TA Leader and Co-Founder of the UnleashPeople. And in the meantime, I think we became really dear friends. So Christian, hello and welcome.
Hello, Rudi. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation now.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that a lot of people in the HR environment know you, but for probably the five out there that don't know who you are, may I please ask you to introduce you quickly yourself?
Yes, sure. I have been working in recruiting for roughly 17 years now. For those who don't know, I am actually an Egyptologist. So I used to look for people who were more or less dead and mummified. But after a while, I thought it's a good thing to change to looking for people who are still alive. And I'm still doing this more or less. And with the UnleashPeople, I support companies in really ramping up their HR and recruiting processes, either in like projects or with a fractional model.
Yeah, coolio. And as it's called Cappuccino with HR, I need to ask you this question as well. And I think it's a question that I ask all my guests. What's your favorite coffee, Christian?
That's an easy one, espresso, with a very small spoon of cane sugar.
Okay, pretty cool. And today we're talking about, and we found a really nice title, and Joanna was very creative this time to find a title for us, which I really love because it's the title for this episode is Robots Don't Drink Coffee, but they might hire you. So we are talking about this kind of how will AI change the role of HR, what is going on there, and you have been at our conference in July as speaker, and the first question there is, how did you like it? How did you like the idea of combining HR and tech? And the second question is, you did a wonderful presentation. We got excellent feedback on your talk. What is probably for the people who missed it, what is probably the one takeaway that you would give them along the way?
Hmm. Oh, so many questions. Well, let's start with the first one. Uh, I actually really liked it, and I specifically like the combination of the tech space and the HR space, because it really shows us, and that's kind of tying to today's topic, how far behind the HR space is when it comes to AI and what to do with it. And it was really amazing to also attend tech talks, listen to what the engineers have to say. And I really enjoyed it. It's something that should be done more, ripping HR out of their bubble, connecting HR with like people from the business, from engineering, whatever, because then you really get much more insights and a much bigger understanding of the business you're working at as well. Regarding my talk, it's one of my favorite topics, to be very honest. I spoke about recruiting basics, basically, right? How to set up your recruiting process without any tool, without AI, really have a proper basis process in place, on top of which you then can build additional things like AI, like automation and everything. But before you do that, you really need to make sure that you know what you're doing, that you have your interfaces ready, and that you have a process that actually works smoothly and is very structured.
Mhm. Do you think it is useful for HR people? Because I think I sometimes have the impression that uh, HR people, or a lot of people have a kind of a big fear of stepping into this tech environment, because it seems to be extremely complex and nerdy. And have you got this feeling, or was it easy to step into some kind of technical sessions, even if you're not a technical expert?
Well, I understand the fear, because if you're not used to it, it's super hard to understand, and they use phrases and words you have never heard before. For me, it is a bit easier because I was recruiting in the tech space, or I have been recruiting in the tech space for roughly 7 years now, and I understand engineers because I spoke with them on a daily basis, and it is helpful. You just need to overcome that initial fear, and if you don't understand things, there is AI. Just ask AI what they mean with it, right? And then everybody gets a much better understanding of the tech space. And honestly, we are moving into a much stronger combination merger with tech in the future, and we cannot avoid working with tech. Actually, we can't do it right now, and in the future it's even less possible, right? So understanding technology is one core skill HR needs to develop, to be able to still be in place in a few years' time.
Do you think that this is AI is reshaping this total environment and setup?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe the latest development stage of AI does, because now everybody can use it. I just read an article today that the first conference on AI was 1956. So the technology is there already. It has been here for ages, right? So it's nothing new. That we can use it so freely, that's the new thing. It will reshape a lot of stuff, but I don't think it will create the big changes that are portrayed right now. That everybody kind of says HR will be gone in a few years due to AI. I don't think that. I don't believe that, because the current AI models are not set up in a way that they can replace humans. They support us, they provide a lot of insights. There are some really good use cases, but there are also use cases that just don't work now. I don't know what the situation will be in 5 years, in 10 years, but as long as AI is a probability model, it will not replace us. And if we set it up properly, and if we stay ahead of the curve with learning, with understanding, it will never replace us. It will be a support function, but it will not be us in a way.
There's this article from Kevin Wheeler, which is called The Last Recruiter, and I read it a couple of days ago. And it's the kind of a recruiter who is doing a kind of a diary starting in 2025, going to 2035. And it really starts with, okay, AI is taking a kind of the first steps into the recruiting ecosystem, and it really ends up in 2035 with the kind of statement that recruiters are not working for companies, they are more working for candidates to support them in being hired by AI later on. So it's more change of the roles, change of the side. It's more moving from the company side into the consulting side for the people out there, to support them in getting hired and understanding what's going on along the way. What's your take on this?
Yeah, Kevin, I already had a webinar with him, and it was very interesting, but also very exhausting for me, at least, because Kevin is more on the doomsday side, right? He just sees all the bad stuff that could happen when it comes to AI. I'm more on the positive side. That being said, I don't see us replaced by AI, as I already mentioned, and I don't see us also moving out of the company space into a more consulting area where we just consult for candidates to deal with AI. Honestly, if you really use that pattern, why should a human being be able to consult on AI better than AI itself? So that's actually a conclusion that does not really make sense. And here actually my studies help a lot. I studied basically history, right? And I have seen the development of humankind in a time frame of 4,000 years. And whenever something new came in, the humans adapted and they used the new technology, they used the additional knowledge to help them. So basically, humankind is able to leverage technology. The only problem we have right now, I guess, is the pace, the speed that we are forced to deal with AI. But again, we have the knowledge and the ability to deal with it. And I don't see AI taking over recruiting because it's just not. It's hard. It's hard to explain right now. Humans still want to deal with human beings. That's the one thing. And AI would need to penetrate the complete company strategy. Like only if the company strategy is completely done by AI might be able to find the right people. But still, there is the missing link of finding the missing piece that you need for your team. And that can only be done by human beings. And it can only, well, no, let me rephrase. Human beings are much more bias free than AI is right now, because what we have in place, AI is trained with US Western data. So basically, all evaluations are done on or are done against the Western metrics. As soon as we have somebody else, that metrics will fail, behavior-wise, answer-wise, communication-wise. And as it looks right now, the training data will stay Western for the time being. So we need to have understanding of different cultures, of different communication models, of everything, right? To be able to, really find the missing puzzle piece, and that can be done by humans. And I strongly believe that AI will help us with that. But again, we will be in charge for a quite long time.
Very interesting. I mean, what you see in developers ecosystem, I mean, which is our home base and where we are really hosting this big community. What we see is that the role of developers will probably and definitely change with AI coming up. So it's probably not the pure coding in the near future. It's more conducting things. It's more putting things cleverly together. How do you see that for HR? Because I mean, HR was always complaining. I mean, when I'm in the business now for 14, 15 years, and they were always complaining, oh, they have staples of paper on their desk, a lot of CVs they have to go through. So how do you see the combination of probably every HR person, every recruiter could have his personal assistant taking care about this kind of shitty stuff?
To a certain extent, yes. And we actually need technology. That's always the thing. I am more positive when it comes to development, but I also am a very, very strong ambassador when it comes to using technology in general in HR, because we are wasting a lot of time with manual work, and that sounds a bit bad, and I'm not sure whether I can phrase it like that, but when it comes to technology, HR teams are quite uneducated. And we tend, and that I include myself here as well, we tend to believe everything that a vendor is telling us without questioning, because we don't have the experience yet to really evaluate technology properly, and to incorporate technology into our daily business. On the other hand, HR teams and also TA teams boast to have that very strong connection to the human beings, and we understand humans, we understand what they feel, we are there to help them, right? But we cannot do that if we are occupied with a lot of manual administrative work. And honestly, I don't believe that we fully understand human beings. Nobody does. It's always a bit of a gut feeling, and that is never good. But we need to use the technology that really helps us to get rid of those huge stacks of paper. We need to measure our work as well, to really understand where we lose time, whether we have some double things going on, whether we run into a dead end and need to kind of come back. And really, we need to optimize our way of working. And for that, technology is really, really good. And it will help us, and it will help us free up time. But then the time we gain, we need to spend meaningfully. And meaningfully means we need to basically translate company strategy into people strategy and make sure that the people understand why they are in the company, what their role is, what their goal is, and really help them filling that role to the fullest extent. And for that, we also can use AI to help us understand the business a bit better, but AI will not help us lifting the people, because that can only be done by the people themselves.
I mean, Christian, as you're doing a kind of you're really helping and supporting a lot of companies in scaling, improving, and coach them for every single piece, getting the employer branding right, doing recruiting right. What is, if you have to bring it down to one bottleneck, what do you see is still the bottleneck, especially probably in Europe at the moment? I mean, what I see is that we are still in a very reactive crisis mode. So everybody's treating us badly. So that is what that's a common message that I hear on HR conferences, that everybody's so bad at the moment to us, and it starts in the US, and it moves over to China and Russia, and everybody's treating us badly. What do you think is the bottleneck? What is really blocking us from doing these 2 steps forward to get it right again?
Good question. It may sound a bit harsh, but HR not understanding the business is, for me, the biggest impediment, because if I don't know what my company is doing, if I don't know how my company actually earns money, how they create products, how they ship products, I cannot help them. I actually do not deliver targeted benefit to the company. And that's for me, the biggest impediment right now. Because as soon as you understand what your company is doing, you can really provide tailor-made development programs. You can help people grow, and you can really lift everybody to the next level. But if you don't know what pays into company success, you're maybe running into the complete opposite direction, and you actually do more harm than good with with the things you do. And that's the hardest stuff, to really make people speak with everybody, breaking down the silos. We have so many silos. We actually have silos within the HR teams, when learning and development doesn't speak with the HR business partners, when comp and ben doesn't speak with like recruiting, right? But we need to be fully interconnected within the HR team and within the complete company, because then we really can create added value.
I'm currently working on some kind of main stage talks for myself as a speaker.
Mhm.
And I found one topic which I really find extremely inspiring, and I want to get your opinion on it. I called it Trinity for Future Proofness. That's the working title at the moment.
Mhm.
And the basic idea is that if you build up a company and if you want to run it successfully into the future, you need a kind of an understanding of the commercial aspects, of course. I mean, that's normally the CEO or CFO role. So he's taking care about financially and structurally that it really works for the company. It makes sense and it has a business.
Mhm.
It's really the business opportunities. Then we have the CIO or CTO who is taking care about
Mhm.
understanding the technology and the movements there. And then I think, and that's the missing link for me, and you described it exactly like this as well. I think it's CHROs or the HR departments that need to understand all the other aspects as well. So at the end of the day, I think if you want to bring it into successful future, you need to have a strong alliance between this triangle, and it needs to be
Mhm.
balanced as well. So I think all the three things needs to be balanced. What's your take on this idea, or how do you see that?
Yes, that's the quick answer. Yes. We That's the thing. We need to really integrate people into the tech, into the commercial aspect, into everything. Um, and we also need people leaders like CHRO, chief people officer, whatever you might call that function. Um, they need to be tech savvy, they need to be future ready, and they need to be very, very entrepreneurial. And if you bring those, that's also three skills or primary skills, you can then also bring much more value to the other two aspects. And um, we need to speak with everybody. We are not like, sometimes I have the impression that HR is seen as a whatever organization within the organization that is not really connected to everybody else, and that's definitely not the case. Um, my best friend in one of my previous companies was the senior director of finance. We had a weekly check-in. We spoke about everything because HR and finance is much closer connected than you would think. And I also had bi-weekly check-ins with the product team, with the CTO, even with the CEO, to really understand how we can create added value to the company. And that's, I guess, that is a solution that might work. And if we manage to also, yeah, back our proposals with data, they might actually be heard and then implemented in the company. As long as we say, I have a feeling that if we do this, retention will be better. Yeah, nice gut feeling. Marketing does not come to the CEO and say, I have the feeling that if we spend 100K on this campaign, we will generate revenue for 5 million. Yeah, nice. You will be laughed at. And then we wonder why our proposals that are completely not backed by data are not implemented. So it's also a learning curve for us in HR, that we need to work the same way as all other departments as well. And that means I prepare a case, I collect data, I connect the data to the business strategy, and I calculate a potential impact. I can do that if I want to. And that's what we need to do much more. And if your Trinity actually is really functioning in that way, they will be much more successful as companies right now.
Does it mean that HR needs to learn speak CFO and CEO's language?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, good one. I mean, I want to touch another point. As hiring has slowed down in the recent years, what's one thing that, I mean, what my impression is sometimes that, I mean, there's a crisis and everybody stops hiring. We are putting the pen back on the table, and then we are start sitting and waiting. But what is your take on how should companies, even if there's a crisis, even if you're slowing down hiring? I mean, there will definitely be times after crisis. There will be times, and we all know that there's a social demographic shift that there will be a kind of a war for talents, and AI can probably solve it a little bit or help to solve it, because otherwise it's anyhow a dimension which I really wonder how to solve it. Uh,
Mm.
what's your take that companies should still do in times like this? What's necessary to be able to attract good talent now and in
Mm.
the upcoming future, probably after the crisis?
Yeah. You mentioned a very strong sentiment, basically that people are leaning back and waiting for things to change. I had a very heated discussion with the CEO of one of my previous companies, and he told me, Christian, standstill will kill us. If we wait for things to happen, we will not be there in a month, in a few years' time, right? And that is something I see a lot. Even if we are not hiring right now so much, or if yeah, there's a bit of an insecurity in the market in general, and that's the case right now. And that's actually the best time to look into your processes, to see what we are doing, to improve stuff, to maybe revamp your EVP, your employer value proposition, because now you have the time. You can really create an authentic EVP, and then you can base your employer branding efforts on that. And that's what a lot of companies are missing: authenticity. They create huge employer branding campaigns with shiny videos, nice buzzwords, right? And as soon as you enter the room for an interview, you can tell, well, that is just marketing speech. And that stuff you can change, and that's also the stuff you should change right now. Do all the groundwork, create proper recruiting process, create proper people processes from recruiting to offboarding, have a very seamless employee lifecycle in place with all the aspects you need. And you can use, and you have to use and leverage technology and AI to make it faster, to also make it stable. And if you do that, you have a very strong competitive advantage over all other companies as soon as the market picks up again. And well, we are old, sorry to say that, Rudi. We have seen several crises already, and the market will pick up. Sometimes much sooner than you expect, and for whatever reasons you don't see it coming. And if you start improving as soon as the market picks up, you have already lost. Because you run full throttle on everything, and you don't have time to improve. So you use processes that are 5 years old in the market, and that completely changed. And that's something people should do and really should look into. And for the ongoing recruiting, just keep improving on the stuff you're doing, and try to be, let's call it, state of the art, and also leverage the feedback you get from the market and incorporate everything you hear into your daily doings. But standstill is not a very good solution.
A question which sounds probably a little bit philosophical, but do you think that we, especially here in Europe or Germany, Austria, because I see it especially in these two markets, are we curious enough for the future, or are we already too saturated?
Yes and no. Um, at least in Germany, that's the market I can speak more about. We are afraid of what's coming because sometimes I still have the impression we are afraid of change because change means that our usual way of working are maybe questioned or obsolete, and we have to adapt. And on the other hand, we are also blindly accepting things that we don't understand. And AI is a very good example for that. We don't understand properly what it does, how it works, but we still think that it will save us. So it's a bit of a paradox, at least for me, that we accept things, very, very futuristic things, and on the other hand, we actually don't want to change. And we are afraid of changes that might come in the future. So yeah, it's weird, I have to say.
Christian, as we're coming to the end of this episode, my final question, last one. If Aladdin with his wonder lamp would show up at you and say, Christian, I found you now. I was looking for you because you, as working in historical places, looking into history for 1,000 years, you didn't find him, but he found you now. And he's asking you, what would be your one wish for HR? What would it be?
That we are bolder in changing, that we just start doing things. That would be my biggest wish, not making plans and strategies and whatever, a foolproof agenda for things to happen that we might do in the future, but just take the bloody first step and start doing it. Because if we don't, we will think about it in 6 months again, and we still are too afraid to start. Just get it going. That would be my biggest wish.
Thank you very much for that one. I think that's a really nice one. And I'm 100% sure that Aladdin is now going to make it real. Thank you so much, Christian, for taking your time.
Hopefully, yes.
I really enjoyed the talk, so I hope the audience out there is enjoying it as much as I do and I did during the recording. So thank you so much for your time and stay tuned and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rudi. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Bye.
Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, your upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by WeAreDevelopers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on WeAreDevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.